Okay, I apologize. They gave us a problem in security.
Gavo, where's the shark mask?
I was gonna go buy one today, the same place that I bought last time, but yeah.
You don't need it no more,
Sorry.
Yaakov. You're good to go.
Yes, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Yeah. Okay, so tonight's stuff actually is pretty geschmack as compared to the previous stuff. Yeah. Okay, so we started. It's really the last three words on nun vavam base. Oh, by the way, before we start, we should have told Oilam to figure this out. How many are making early? Is the Oilam making early Shabbos tomorrow?
Yes.
I plan on.
Everybody planned on it for the most part, I think.
We're making
I didn't
discuss it with my wife, but that's what we usually make early Shabbos.
What is the early Shabbos?
We're doing a middle. I'm doing a middle, Parrot. So you can come to a middle.
3:34-ish.
I'm saying 6:20 is early Shabbos, right? 6:20 is early Shabbos.
6:05 is early.
That's mincha for 6:05. So what does the Olam want? Would you rather do it at 5:30, at 5:20, or does that work?
If I were making early Shabbos, they'd probably rather 5:20.
I'm trying to figure out how many are not making early Shabbos. Okay.
So far, none of them are answering.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go this way.
Is
anybody not making? Is anybody making late other than me and Parrots?
I am making late.
I make Bismano, but I prefer earlier.
I'll make him prefer earlier. Does anybody prefer it later? How's that? Does anybody prefer it later? Don't be bashful. It's okay to say. Okay, so 5:20.
Don't prefer it at all. Can we say that, or we're not allowed to say that?
If you don't prefer it at all, you're in the wrong channel, man. Switch the channel.
Exactly.
Okay, so 5:20 it is then. Yes.
You got it. Matzah Shabbos.
What time is the Shkia? Is probably about 7.
Shkia 7:51.
If I make early Shabbos, the Shabbos end earlier also?
Sorry, buddy.
I'm joking.
That's over.
Okay,
someone making that deal, you take it. Don't worry.
7:50 is Shkia, and it's 9:40, I guess. 9:40. That's what we did last. 9:45.
Last week was 9:40. Yeah.
Okay, so 9:40. Fine. Okay. Should have handled that before. Could have done that. Okay. So anyway, so Kate said also Mamar. So the Mishnah said that first, ain't get achar get, ain't Mamar achar Mamar. That was makos ruling like Rabanan. And then the Gemara says Keitzad. How? And then it goes to explain a totally different case. So the Gemara asks. Now we're on to Nun Beis Amud Aleph. I get achar get who? We're talking about get achar get, and then you say Keitzad. We're talking about giving a get to the first wife and the second wife, right? And then all of a sudden you say, what's the case? You give get achar Mamar. How could that be Keitzad? How could that? It's a totally different case. That's what the Gemara is asking. Hi, get achar get who? We're talking about get achar get, and then you're talking about a Keitzad of something else. So Amar Rav Yehuda Hachika Amar get achar get u'Mamar achar Mamar k'da'amoram. Get achar get and Mamar achar Mamar. Get achar get and Mamar achar Mamar k'da'amoram. It's like we said. Yavam echad v'yivma achas. Keitzad, but how about a case of one yavam and a second yavam? What's the case? Hatarasan. Keitzad hatarasan. What and which way do we allow them to go free, literally? Because again, when they're both wives, when they fall to yibum, they're not allowed to marry anybody else. So you have to give them either a get or Mamar to one of them. So also Mamar be yivim toy. Not get. So what's the case? If you do Mamar to the yivim toy and then you give a get, tzricha haimenu chalitza, then you're going to need chalitza. So basically, the Gemara is just saying that it's not the Keitzad is not going on the first case; it's going on the second case. Fine. Then it says also Mamar ubal harezu k'mitzvah. We said if he does Mamar, again, Mamar means that he's just announcing and tells her that he's marrying her, meaning he's going to do yibum to her, and then he does the actual yibum. Right, so we said that's exactly the way it's supposed to be done. He's supposed to tell her he's marrying her, and then you do the yibum. So Lema Misayela the Rav Huna. Let's say this is a proof to Rav Huna, and the Olam was wondering about this the other day. The Amar Rav Huna mitzvahs yivama mekadesh v'achar boil. The way you're supposed to do yibum is first you do kedushin, and then you do yibum. That is exactly the way to do it. So our Mishnah says that is the proof that that's exactly what you do. That's what the Mishnah is saying. First do mimer, which is sort of like kedushin, engagement, what we call it, and then do bia, then do yibum. So what it says, yeah.
The didn't Rav when it came to kedushin say give malchus to Rabanan for doing bia as a kedushin, even though midiraban is mutter. So would he be makos on yibum also, or because
next Gemara? It's the next Gemara here.
Oh, I know.
It's the next. Very good. It's the next Gemara. So Amos, the Gemara says, so we don't want to. It's not necessarily that the Mishnah is saying that. The Gemara answers, Ema af zek mitzvah. So even this is like the mitzvah, meaning doing mimer and then yibum is also like the mitzvah. However, it's not, doesn't have to be done that way. So Gemara says pshita, it's pashut, that's even like the mitzvah. Meaning you do mimer and then yibum, what's the big deal? Sagadai techamina, no, because you might think hiva damar. This is what Akiva was just referring to. Ha'isa mimer b'yivimtoi. If somebody does mimer by his yivimtoi, parchem and zikas yibin. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. That's not what Akiva was saying. He was saying the next more. So I would have thought, since Mar says if somebody does mimer, that takes away the zikah. Again, remember, zikah is the automatic connection between the almana and the brothers-in-law. So once you do mimer, that knocks out the connection. And now, once he does mimer, it becomes like a regular.
But the Chachamim made it. They made it has to be mimer. So what is it, like a big surprise? Oh, it does this and this. They made it. The guy didn't pull it out of his hat. They made the din.
They say they made.
Oh, look what happened. They made the din.
Right, but here's the thing. So you would think that they made the din, right? But now that you do mimer, now maybe it turns into a standard marriage.
So they rewrote the whole Torah. Torah put a mitzvah of yibum, one of the Taryag mitzvahs, and they took it and they said, no, we don't like that one, so we're going to get rid of that one.
Rabanan, it's very interesting what you're saying, because the next Gemara is also mash. Chachamim seem to have taken away what it says in the Torah. Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Right? They're saying that you do mimer, but once you do mimer, now it turns into your standard marriage. Right? So then Ema, let's see how it goes. Then we'll see what Yohara comes up again in a few lines. So again, somebody who does mimer by his yivimtoi, meaning he does mimer before he does the yibum, that gets rid of the connection, the chalal of zikas erisin and then it becomes like erisin and asuin. So Ema lav mitzvah kavit. So maybe he's no longer doing the mitzvah of yibum, which is barn. That's you ask. What I mean, that means he lost the mitzvah. You're telling him to do mimer, and now he loses the mitzvah of yibum. Kamash malan. No, that he still gets the full mitzvah. So basically, you're asking what the havamina is, because the maskana is like you're saying, which is the Gemara is thinking that since you do mimer, then you're no longer getting the mitzvah of yibum. You're getting the regular standard mitzvah of marriage, right? So the kamash malan that you still get the mitzvah of yibum. So that's what the chiddush is. That's the Gemara's chiddush. Either way, mimer does not have to be done first. Yibum could be done first. At least that's what the Gemara is saying now. But mimer could be. It's better if you do mimer first. So
why are we saying it's like the assur?
And yibum is against her will. We learned that yibum is bal karcha.
It could be bal karcha, and kedushin is not. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also a good order. It's also a good order. Yeah. It's no akiva zikas erisin v'nesuin.
I understand that, but here there's nothing that. Why are we saying it's like the assur?
Because no,
what are you doing? What action are you doing that's like the assur?
No, it's just saying that the way you're going to marry her is with Erison and the Suin.
I thought it's saying that your Maisa Mimer is considered like Erison and the Suin.
No, I don't know. No. Now you still have to do it in the Suin part. That's the way I understand. Well, the way I understood is that you did Erison and then you do the Suin.
No, it says Machal of Zikas Erison bin Suin. It's Chal on her.
Right.
Through Mimer.
Right.
Through Mimer.
Oh, but I didn't understand it that way. I understood it that
I'm just reading the Gemara as is.
Yeah, Nechanami. But
the
it
Gemara
seems
says
like
Chol of Zika's Erison, or Chol of Zika's Kedushin.
no, because he's still, in order to complete the process, he has to do the steward. He still has to get married. You're not going to say, "Oh, we did Erison and then he's fine."
Then why did the Gemara say it that way?
I don't know. But that's what I think. That's what I understood it. But I'm more balabatish than you, so.
I'm just reading the Gemara. I think that's the most balabatish you're doing it.
Here, so I'm so balabatish. I'm not even reading.
You just
the Gemara
cut out part of the
correct.
Gemara.
That's right. That's what we do for convenience, right? Anyways, okay. Yeah. So let's see. So now Gufa. Here, this next Gemara is fascinating Gemara. So Gufa Amar Avuna mitzvah yibum makadosh v'achakach boil. The mitzvah of yibum is to be makadosher, which is mimer, and achakach boil, and then sleep. Then ball also mimer kana. But if you do it the opposite, you do bia and then mimer, then you're kind of. So Gemara asks, what do you mean involve us a mimer pshita? Once you did the bia, you did the mitzvah of yibum. Then you go like it's like marrying her and then giving her an engagement ring after you marry her. Right? Involve us a mimer pshita. The kanya bia. He was already kind of a bia. Ela ema. So what does the Gemara say? No. What it means is involve below mimer kana. If you were boil without mimer, then you are kind of. Right? So it means you don't need to do mimer. Really, you just need to do yibum. So then the Gemara says, "But Tanya Laika," but we learned in a brisa that you're going to get you get malchus if you are boil a woman of a yivama without doing mimer first, you're going to get malchus. So it's meaning the Gemara is thinking now it's malchus from the Torah. So how could it be? So the Gemara says makos mardas midiraban. No, it's not. You're getting makos mardas midiraban. Why? The Rav mangid because Rav gave malchus manda makadosh bebia. Rav gave malchus to anybody who was makadosh bebia. Not only that, umanda makadosh b'shuk, and anybody who's makadosh in the shuk, right? Because it's without doing the proper chasana. Umanda makadosh b'lo shiduchi, and somebody who does is makadosh without shiduchim, right? Which doesn't mean shiduchim doesn't mean like what we're saying, meaning without proper process. Umanda mavatal kita, and anybody who's mavatal laget. Umanda masar maida agita, and anybody who's masar maida on the get. Which is anybody who gives a get and he's being moister maida, he's letting them know, by the way, it's only a get if you meet such and such a requirement. So anybody that does that also gets malchus. Meaning a man should not be giving a man should be giving a get with unequivocally without any sort of strings attached. Umanda pakar shlicha derabanan, and anybody who makes the shliach derabanan hefker, meaning if the Rabanan send the shliach to you to tell you to do something and you don't listen to him. So you also get malchus. And if the chachamim put somebody into chayrim, and you let that chayrim go for 30 more than 30 days, you're also going to get malchus. If you do that and you don't come to the bezdin to try and get rid of your chayrim, then you also get malchus. Now, just let's stop there for a second. So. Rabanan, talk about going against the Torah. The Torah says there's 3 ways to be mekadosh and isha: kesef, shtar, and bia. Right? Guy takes out a chumash. He says, "Okay, I'm allowed to be mekadosh this woman with a bia." Comes along Rav and says, "Oh, if you do that, you're getting malchus. We're going to smack you for doing that." I don't say, how can you go against the Torah? Right? How do you go against the Torah? The Torah said to do it. Right?
Maybe it's similar to what we said Lagabe the din of the din of yibum, that it used to be it was done with pure intentions, and over time it was there's a priestess involved in it now.
Oh, so look at the taisus. It's a important taisus. The mekadosh bebia. It's to the left down. It's a short taisus. Don't worry, right? Amar Rabbeinu Tam dafila be yevama, even yevama, that the whole mitzvah is bia, the tzarech bia. The pritzusa who sha'isa tchilas kinyanai bebia. It's considered pritzis to do your first kinyan with bia. So Rav decided it's pritzis, even though the Torah allows it.
How could that be? How could that be what Rabbeinu Tam just said? How could that be? What is he saying? That's what the Torah said to do.
It's a siyag. It's a siyag.
What's the siyag? The Torah said, take your wife, your brother Nebuch died without children. Take his wife and go to the Marriott. That's what the Torah told you to do.
Right. That's what we have the Gemara for.
How does Rabbeinu Tam say it's priestess?
So I think the horror is a good horror, but I think Akiva is right. It must be that it became a preacher's. It must be if it became a preacher's, and Rav is
That's not what
saying
the
that
Rabanan Tam is saying.
Yeah, but
He's saying
you
it's a
can ask a better question then.
You're right.
I'm
You're
saying
right.
it's a mitzvah preachers. How does he say
right.
such a thing?
No, but
You're
you
right.
could ask a
You're
better
right.
question. How come we got rid of yibum? The Torah says do yibum, and we
I
say
don't want
no.
to ask
do
a
it
better
anymore.
question. I like the question I asked. You could ask a better question if you want. I'm
So why
happy
you
with my
stopping there?
question.
You just want to know. You just want to know Rabbeinu Tam.
Rabanan, I would have used hide, not marry it. It confuses everybody. The word marry it is marriage. Hide is better.
No, Marriott
Okay.
Kochikot was owned by yibum. No.
I think Hyatt used to be too. No, I don't
One
know.
second, okay,
Anyway.
Mamar, now you let everybody know that you have Marriott points. Now we figured it out. Okay, fine.
I don't have any Marriott points.
The truth is, Avi Khan's kasha is a kasha too. They did away with the whole yibum too. It's a good kasha. It's a good kasha.
The lotion of the Rabanan Tam I'm asking.
Yeah. The lotion. It doesn't fit with
The
Akiva's
Rabanan
shot.
Tam, I mean, he's timing on the Chumash.
Yeah.
He's not saying what Avi and Akiva is saying that it
Chazal has the
developed into
power.
preachers. He's saying that the thing is preachers. How does he say that?
Unless
Chazal
he
has the
says that
power.
it be the Evid. What is
Chazal
that
has
now?
limited power to do these things.
Yeah, I guess. Clearly, they must.
He's not asking on Chazal. He's asking that the Torah
Rabanan
establishes
Tam
the way
is
the
saying
Abbot
that the thing is the preachers. How does he say that?
That's why he's the Rabanan Tam and we're not.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now, I thought I was a Rishon. I looked in the, I have a nice
Clearly,
you must be a Rishon.
clearly not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How does he say such a lotion?
They went to high school together.
So it could be, maybe, I'm thinking about it now, but it could be that the Torah says it works. Lamaisa, it works, but it's a pretzis. Meaning at the end of the day, it works, but it's not a l'chatchila. That's maybe the way he's saying pshat. He's saying the Torah, yes, the Torah would allow it, but Lamaisa, it's not the right thing to do. Okay, and that's one thing. Then we're up to the last one. The last one, a lot of us have big issues with, right? Especially me. This is Yonah the Yom for me. I just came from my son-in-law's house, right? Okay, but he didn't sleep there. Okay, so I was watching his kids, so maybe I kept this. And well, actually, I went to stay by him. But okay, but a son-in-law is not supposed to sleep in his in-law's house. Right now, what's a pshat in this? So you get malchus if a son-in-law.
Jacob, that's one way out of getting not having to go visit the shviga.
Yeah, that's true. You say it's mom, and Rambam brings it in halacha. It's a good thing my wife just walked away from this, Baruch Hashem, because Lamaisa Rashi in Kiddushin says the reason is because there's an attractiveness from the mother-in-law to the son-in-law. So therefore, if the son-in-law lives in the house, it can cause a preachers, right? Okay,
why do
whatever
they use
that
Lashon
means.
father-in-law?
We don't have that problem, you're saying.
No, the father-in-law with the daughter-in-law?
No. I'm not asking. It might be different, but I'm saying, why did they use the Lashon father-in-law? If son-in-law stays in the father, why didn't they say the mother-in-law? We're talking about the mother-in-law, right?
Because the house belongs to the father.
Well, the mother-in-law could be dead. I mean, we could be talking about.
Oh, you mean that? So yeah, okay. You're saying even if the mother-in-law is not there, then it's okay.
Right. What does that mean? It's only inside the mother-in-law.
Yeah. So the question, okay, good. The question is why we don't keep this. Well, what's the deal, right?
See, Yaakov, he told me a different time. I'm able to say it. Rabbi Warshaw, the Rosh Yeshiva from Rabbi Kant, right? He said that in his next Gilgul, he would like to come back as one of his wife's son-in-laws. Just because those guys are treated like unbelievable. That's what he wants to come back as.
Okay.
Mama's from this Gemara.
Okay, that's okay. He said it on this Gemara?
He said no, he says it all the time, Rabbi Kant. It's one of his pet sayings.
Right, so this Gemara is a riot. So anyway, so the Gemara goes even more. So the Gemara says the Dorian only if they live in the same house, the Chalif loy, but if he just walks by the house, is not a problem. You have the guy, there was a guy who walked past the door of his father-in-law's house, but not day Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes gave him malchus for that because it would be a tease. So So there it's a problem. So the Gemara says, meaning even to walk by is a problem. More answers
You're
are,
not
who
even
made
allowed to
them?
drop off your wife.
Correct.
You
There
can't go
go.
near there. There's a restraining order on the block.
100%. That's exactly right. That's what the Gemara says, right? So the Gemara answers, who made them have a dime? There was talking about who made them have a dime machmase. There was already chashash. There was a chashash that there were issues between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, the mother-in-law and the son-in-law. So therefore, for him walking by there means that he's making trouble. Now, here comes the bailout of
Yaakov, I'm just saying this would solve a lot of problems if the oil would learn this with the chsanim.
100%. It could cause problems and it can solve problems depending on the situation. But yeah, right. So Nahadai Amri Bakulu Loimangid. The Nahadai said in all these cases they didn't give the Loimangid Rav. Rav didn't give Malkus. Elul Makadash Bibia or Baloishaduch. The only two, right? There was a whole list of 6 or 7 items. The only two that they gave that Rav gave Malkus for Nahadai is this is what Nahadai said. Elul Makadash Bibia or Baloishaduch. Somebody who's Makadash with Bia, that's somebody who gets married without Shaduch. And then some say even with Shaduchim, right? He still would mishum pritzusa, because meaning it had to be bia without Shaduchim. Mashma that bia with Shaduchim would be okay, right? And then the ikadam is afilu b'shaduchim nami. Even if he did bia with Shaduchim, it's because of pritzusa. Okay, so now another major tosis, the one right after the one we just said. So Hadar bebeis chamav, he says anan samchinan on hardoi. Says we paskin, we rely on the hardoi. The amri bekulu loiman gedrav elaman de bekadosh bebia. We go with the hardoi, who said that he only gave malchus somebody who's mekadosh bebia. All the other ones, including the son-in-law living by the mother-in-law's house, is we don't paskin like. Now this is the loaded line. The b'shel seifrim halav achar makos, because it's a Rabanan. So since it's a Rabanan, we always go with the makos. Valdik, does that mean every day? We know plenty of the Rabbanan that we don't go with the makos, right? But here, Taisus is saying we go with the makos, so therefore you're allowed to. That's why you're allowed to sleep. The son-in-law is allowed to sleep in the father-in-law's house. But again, Taisus is saying because of the rule of the Rabbanan, we go lakula.
Also, Taisus is mashma that this machlokes nerda and not nerda is whether it's mutzer or you get malchus. So also you get malchus. It's not mashma from the Gemara.
No, good. No, if you don't get malchus, then what should be the problem? You want to say there's a middle thing that is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know. Taisus is not learning like that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see about it. So Tana Rabanan. Keitzad Mamar. What is Mamar? How does it work? Finally, we're going to discuss what Mamar is. It's a nasan lekesef, a shava kesef. He gives her money or something the equivalent of money. Ubishtar. I'm sorry. Nasan lekesef, a shava kesef. He gives kesef, a shava kesef. Ubishtar keitzad. How do you do Mamar with a shtar? So bishtar keitzad kedam. What do you mean? What are you asking? How do you give a shtar? Like we said, kasav le al niyora lecheres. You write her a shtar on a piece of paper or on earthenware. Back then they wrote things on earthenware. Even though the paper is not worth a shava pruta, but if you're not using it as shava kesef, if you're using it as a shtar, then you say hareyat mikudeshli on the shtar, and then that works. So what's your question? They want to say, what's your question? Just do that. Shtar ksubas yivmin keitzad. How do you do the shtar ksuba yivmin? What does it say? Your standard ksuba, we know what it says. What's the ksuba of a yavam say? So Gemara answers, Kosavla, this is what he writes. Anah pliny bar pliny, Kabilis yas plainis, I'm being makabel this woman, Yivimti alai, this who's my yivama on me, lazon to feed her, the farnasa kiroi, and to be mafarnasa properly. Ubavad shatei ksubasa al lichse baila harishan. As long as the ksuba, it has to be paid by the first husband, right? So the guy's being Mr. Nice Guy. He says, I'm taking care of her, but the ksuba, which nowadays is worth 15 grand, whatever it is, that has to come out of the first husband. I'll take care of everything, meaning out of his brother. Be less lamirishan. If there's no money from the first husband, kinu l'Rabanan and misheni, then the chachamim will second that the second husband has to pay the ksuba, even though it wasn't his wife. Why does he have to pay the ksuba? Because if he doesn't have to pay the ksuba, then the whole reason for the ksuba is so that men shouldn't just divorce their wives. It should cost them money to divorce their wives. So therefore, they put it on the yavam that he's gonna have to pay the ksuba if he divorces her, because otherwise he's just gonna get rid of her.
Was this an additional takana?
I wasn't sure.
I'm saying,
about
why
that.
isn't it built into the original ksuba takana? Once you're married, the whole davar, it should be just part of. It should be part of that original takana. There's no difference.
Yeah, but I think the way I'm understanding of it, again, this is Balabatish, and I'm not sure I'm right, is that he says, listen, I don't want to marry her. The Torah is telling me to marry her. Why do I have to pay the ksuba? This is not a marriage that I want. So really, she would only get one ksuba right? So then we're saying, yes, your ksuba, since you're marrying this woman because of your brother, right? So therefore, we're going to allow the ksuba, we're going to allow you to let the ksuba be paid by the first one. But if he doesn't have the money, then we're just afraid he's going to marry her. And then the standard ksuba reason kicks in. That's what I think it is, Akiva. And I don't think she's getting two ksubas. I think.
No, I'm not saying she's getting two ksubas. I'm saying it's an additional takana to the original ksuba. It's not going to work unless you have a ksuba. So like, it's not. You can't be married to her without a ksuba.
Right, I hear. Right, no, in a chanami. But the question is, who's gonna pay it? Yeah. All right. Okay. Then we get into some interesting cases here. So Abaye asked the kasha from Rabba. Nasan lo get ba'ama. If he gives a get to his yavama and tells her, Hareya mikureshes hemeni, you're going to be divorced from me. But not you're going to be divorced from me, but you can't marry anybody else. All right, this sounds like the get issue. All right, he's telling her, you're becoming my yavam. I'm giving you a get to be divorced from me, but you're not going to be divorced from, you're not going to be able to marry anybody else. Mahu. So what's the din? So now a person can pull this shtick. What we're going to see, can a person even pull the shtick by a standard marriage? But if he could, can he pull the shtick for the Yavama marriage? So get Yavama the Rabanan who? So is the get of a Yavama the Rabanan, right? Meaning to do a get for a Yavama is a Rabanan get the Mahani Beishas Ish Mahani be Yavama. So, and do we say that a get that works? I mean, this type of get will work for a regular married woman. Will help for this. Get the loima honey basis is loima honey yavama, and a get that doesn't work for a regular woman is not going to help by yavama. Meaning, do we just say that it has the same status as a standard marriage? Idilma asi lachlufe begita, or we're going to get confused with the get, right? Meaning, if we're not going to say that he can be meyavam her, so then people might think that a yavam who gets a get you could still do yibum. Meaning, again, the same sort of zero like we said 2 days ago. If we're going to say that this guy gives a get to his wife and it's not going to work, so then we're going to be afraid that this get, that people are going to think stam when a guy gives a regular standard get to his yavama, which then makes it assur for him to marry her, to do yibum to her. Once he gives her a get, even though that's not he's supposed to do chalitza, but if he doesn't get, we said he no longer can marry her. So people are going to get confused. All right, so that's the shaila. So we're concerned that you're going to switch it for the get. So therefore, we're going to allow it. Yeah, now there's a tumult whether we go with what it's in the brackets or not. Anyway, so maskul Rabba Baruch Hanan Elamiyat, Yov Lo Niyara Ba'ama Hachanami the Pasla. Are you going to say that if he just gives her a plain piece of paper with nothing on it, so you're going to also say that she is puzzled to that because you might give a get? Meaning, Rabanan, this is really a kasha that you would ask. He's saying, what are you saying? You're saying that he gives a get to the Yavama that's really no good, but we're going to have to say it's good because otherwise somebody's going to confuse it and say that her standard get, they can go get married. So he says, okay, so if a guy gives a plain piece of paper to his Yavama, then we also have to accept it as a get because a person might get confused, right? How does that? At what point are we going to draw the line with people getting confused with how to get rid of yavamas?
He gives her that menu from the Yontif Suda.
Right. He says, okay, this is your get. Meaning, where do you draw the line? Maybe the guy does, a handstand and says, okay, this is your get. People are going to confuse it, and then, right? So again, if he just gives her a piece of paper, says that this is your get up and Ami the pasla, that means she's also going to be puzzled. Amrale, no, Hasam like puzzle the kahuna. Right? By a standard get, if somebody gives a blank piece of paper to a woman and says this is to his wife and says this is your get, that is nobody's going to say that she's puzzled from kahuna. Nobody's going to say it's even a get, and she can go marry a kohen. But here, if he does this get and says you're divorced from me, but you're not divorced from anybody else, that will make her, even though it's a crazy get, it doesn't work, but it will make her puzzled to kahana. So since it does have some sort of validity to it, so now you would think, oh, but by yibum it doesn't have validity to it. So that's why we have to say that by yibum it does have validity. The Tanya v'isha grusha me'isha lo yikachu. A woman who's divorced from her husband. Here the word isha doesn't mean the wife. It means from her isha. It means from her husband. Isha grusha me'isha lo yikachu. A kohen cannot take a woman who got divorced from her husband. Even if she was only divorced from her husband and not from anybody else, no yikachu. He can't take her. That's called the smell of a get. That passes by kahuna, meaning it's not a legitimate get, but since it has the smell of a get, so therefore it passes the kahuna. Yeah. So Amar Rami Bar Chama, Hare Amru, we said now this is a new shaila. Yeah. Hare Amru, if they said the Chacham said Amar Echad LeLavler, somebody says to a lavler, to a cipher, Kosav get la rusasli l'kashet konsa agashana. I'm gonna write a get now to the person who I got engaged to. That what am I doing? That when I marry her, she's gonna be divorced. Okay. Now it's an interesting case. I don't know what this guy is thinking, but he gets engaged to the woman, then he writes a get and it says when I get married, then she's gonna have a get. So then is that a kosher get? Harez a get? The Gemara says that it's a get. Why? If they should be yada lagarsha, because he does have it in his ability to marry her because he's already engaged to her. So once he's engaged to her, so he's allowed to. But if he goes over to a woman and says, I'm going to get engaged to you, and then I'm going to get divorced from you, then that doesn't work. This get ain't get, because he doesn't have, it's not in his hand to divorce her. Right? Fine. So then that's the standard psak by a get. That if he's already engaged to her, then he could say, I'm marrying her and then I'm divorcing her. But if he's not engaged to her, then he can't. So what happens if he does this shtick to his yevama, right? So, meaning he says to her, I'm going to be meyavim you, and then I'm going to get divorced. Even since they are connected, right? Right when the brother dies without kids, there's a connection. So therefore, he does have a right to get divorced. Is considered like his engaged wife. Or perhaps keeping the loy over by mimer, since he didn't do mimer, since the Maisa he didn't do any engagement. Then no. So teiku, then we say it's teiku, meaning it's the same shaila that we had the last couple of days. It does zikah. Is zikah enough to be considered like they're engaged, or you actually have to do an engagement? So the Gemara says teiku. Fine. Then the next shaila, boy Rabbi Chananya, kosav get lazikah, say the loyla mamar. Let's say he writes a get to the woman, right? Meaning he does mimer to the yevama, and then he says, I'm giving you a get, but the get is only taking care of the zikah connection, but it's not taking care of the mimer connection. Or he says, I'm giving you the get for the mimer connection, the loyla zikah, meaning he's basically telling her, I'm giving you a half a get. Mao, what's the din? So we say mimer ilave zikah karami. Do we say the mimer and it goes on top of the zikah? As if he's only being megarish a half a woman. But megarish chatzi isha lo yotzav lo klum, and somebody who divorces a half a woman obviously is nothing, right? If a guy gives a get to a woman's left arm and not her right arm, that's not a good get. It's the same thing here, meaning he's only doing here zikah or mimer. He's not doing both. Or do we say that each one's by itself, right? So fine. So that's the Gemara's kasha. The Gemara says, why don't we say pshat from Rava? Dama Rava nasan get lemamara. He gives a get to his mimer huchut sarasa, then the tzara is mutter, right? So meaning if once you give a get to one, once you do mimer to one wife, then the tzara, meaning the co-wife, becomes mutter, right? So then you see that it's considered some sort of I'm sorry, I said I missed one step. He does mimer and then he gives a get to the mimer, then the tzara is mutter. So that means you see he holds that get from mimer is legitimate. And obviously he wasn't referring to the zikah because he did mimer and he's giving a get. So in one answer, the Rav Pshita, the Rav Hanani with Rav was kosher, Rav Hanani wasn't sure. So what's the din? So the Gemara says teiku, so it's a teiku. Yeah. Fine. Then the Gemara says chalitza also maimer. If he does chalitza and then he does maimer. All right. So what does the Gemara? What does the Mishnah say on that? So he does chalitza and then he does maimer. Right. So then we're saying that there's nothing after chalitza and it's nothing. Samar of Yehuda Amar Rav Zu Divrei Rebbe Kiva. That's the field Rebbe Kiva. The Amar Ein Kedushin types in B'chayv Elaven. Kedushin doesn't work with Chayv Elaven. Remember we had in the Mishnah a couple of Mishnayos ago that Kedushin doesn't work. Well, Rebbe Kiva holds that even Chayv Elaven, the kids that come from it, is a mamzer, which means because he holds that Kedushin doesn't work. So therefore, once somebody does chalitza, his wife becomes assur to him, right? So here what happened is he did chalitza and then he did maimer, so which is now an assur lav. So that's why it doesn't work. So kedushin doesn't work. There is kedushin afterwards because the bottom line is only an assur derabanan. Since it's only an assur derabanan, so therefore it's a problem.
But see, Yaakov,
right? Yeah.
In over here, when you're doing a mimer and you're having in mind derabanan dik a mimer, does that work as the same way as doing a real kedushin? Because l'chayra, it would be typhus als regular kedushin, not als mimer, right? Because over here, once you do chalitza, she's mutter la'alma, correct?
Correct, but not to you.
So then, when you do mimer, is that a real kedushin or is that a mimer? Meaning built into whatever the zikah would allow you to do.
10. Right, but he's doing an assur. He's doing an assur.
What I'm saying is maybe you're not doing anything because you have to do a real kedushin now.
Correct, but the question is he's doing it. Maimer is kedushin, so he's doing a kedushin. So
Maimer is kedushin on when you have a zikah. Maimer is not. I mean, it's when there's zikah there's an Indian Maimer. If I go over to
so Maimer here, yeah, it doesn't mean Maimer. It means he's bekadish the woman again. He marries her again. So
and let's say you would have in mind Maimer.
He would have in mind it? What do you mean?
Meaning he would assume that he's doing Maimer, and because he still thinks he has a zikah.
I don't know what it doesn't make a difference. Once he does chalitza, the game is over, right? But it's only an assur derabanan. So according to Rebbe Kiva, it doesn't work. But according to others, it should work, right? That's what the Gemara is saying. There is something to it because they're going to hold that it's only an assur not a derabanan. It's only assur lav. Since it's only an assur lav, right? Then it's a problem. I mean, whatever. It's a kedushin. So therefore, there is something to it. So you may need a get. So Gemara asks, let's see. So mi matzas mukmas like Rebbe Kiva. Can we really hold like Rebbe Kiva? Meaning, can we only say the Mishnah is like Rebbe Kiva? But Katani Reisha, we said in the Reisha, nosan get. For us, a maimer, if somebody gives a get and then he does maimer, meaning the Yevama gives a get and then he does maimer. So tzricha get for chalitza. She's going to need a get and chalitza. That's what we said because there was maimer and yibum. Maimer only takes care of the get takes care of the maimer. And the Rebbe Kiva, and if it's Rebbe Kiva, Kiva the Yav laget, and if it's he's saying it's Rebbe Kiva, since he gave a get, mi mahani but maimer, does maimer work? Vatani Rebbe Kiva aimer. In ayin leis to get the yivimta shenes v'lo lamas, right? Once you give a get to your yivama, then you become also forever. Shanemar lo yuchal ba'il harishon shel shilcha. The first husband that was not able to do yibum, so it's also he's not allowed to marry her anymore. Achar shiluach, meaning after he divorces her. So since he divorces her, what are you meaning? The Mishnah is saying he still needs to give a get. What do you mean? According to Rebbe Kiva, there's no reason to give a get if he does maimer after the get or after chalitza, because it's already it's a lav and the marriage didn't even work. So how does the ratio fit with the sefer? So Amar Ravashi get given midiraban. We're saying in the Chanami the get of a yibum is a derabanan. We'll cross smachta ba'alma. Oh, the pasuk seems to talk about a get. That's a smachta ba'alma. So the whole thing is a derabanan. Yeah, fine. So Tanya Namihachi Amar Rebbe. So Rebbe said, "Eina dvarim halalu amurim." These words in the Mishnah are not said, right? That there's nothing after chalitza. Ella Rebbe Kiva. Only according to Rebbe Kiva. Shaya isa chalitza ke'erva. He makes, once a guy gives chalitza to his wife, to whatever his brother's wife, then she becomes like an erba to him, right? And if they have a kid, it's going to be a mamzer, according to the kid. But the chachamim say there is there is kedushin after chalitza, and therefore our Mishnah doesn't fit according to them. But Rebbe says, I myself say, Amosai, when is it that kedushin works with a chalitza according to the Chachamim? That's only when he's makadosh her as a wife. But if the reason why he's marrying her is al yevamos, ain achar chalitza klum, then there's nothing. Right, so Rebbe is saying a big chiddush that again, according to Rebbe Kiva, once a guy gives chalitza or a get, that's it. If he can he can remarry that yevama, but it doesn't work. According to Rebbe Kiva, it doesn't work. It's an assur lav, and according to him, the kids will become a mamza. The Chachamim disagree and say he's doing an assur, but it's not going to make mamzer, and the kedushin will work, and he will need a get. That's what the Chachamim say. And now Rebbe is saying he's qualifying the Chachamim. And he's saying, when did the Chachamim say that it works? That's when he does it l'shem as a wife. But if he's being makadasher again after he does chalitza as yevama, then that's nothing. So Rebbe again is splitting hairs. He's saying depends why he remarries her. If he remarries her as a wife, then it's going to need, according to the Chachamim, then it's going to need a get. But if he remarries her as a yavam, then it's not. That's one version. Tani we learned in another brayso. Somebody who's chalitz to his yevama, and he goes back and is makadasher. Rebbe Omer im kitchel l'shem ishus. If he's makadasher l'shem ishus, tzricha menu get. Then he needs a get. She needs a get. L'shem yevamos ain't tzricha menu get. She doesn't need a get. Then he does need a get. So again, in the Chachamim's shita, that remarrying the chalutza works is a machlokes. The Chachamim say that it doesn't make a difference why you're remarrying her, whether it's for marriage or whether it's for yevama. And Rebbe says no. If you're remarrying her for marriage, then he's going to need a get. But if he's remarrying her out yibum, meaning he regrets doing the chalitza, then it doesn't work. Some Rabbi Yosef might time with Rebbe. Now, now the Gemara is going to go through 6 reasons. I think it's 6 of the 6 different ways of understanding the machlokes the Chachamim and Rebbe. Some Rabbi Yosef, my time with the Rebbe. What's the reason for Rebbe? So assur ka'ayder b'nifsei hager. It's this case is similar to somebody who's hoeing or digging in the field of a ger. Now a ger, when he dies, has no yarsh. So the first person who gets to his field gets first dibs, and that's it. So this guy is digging in the ger's yard, but he doesn't. He thinks that it's his own yard. So meaning the kani, he was not kani because he's not doing it the right kavana. Meaning, let's say the guy's a neighbor to the ger, and he thinks he's working the field in his own yard, right? And really it ends up being the ger. So do we say that that's enough? So we say he is not kinda because he didn't do it with the right kavanah. So we're saying Rebbe's saying the same thing. If this wife really does belong to him, right? It's really his yevama, right? But it's as if he's doing something. He's doing it totally shalai b'kavanah. So therefore, it's not going to, meaning he's not doing it for the right thing, right? Because it's not his wife anymore. He doesn't have rights to her, right? So then the Gemara says, Amar Abai says he doesn't like that mashal. There, he doesn't have kavanah to be kind of, right? Meaning he would think he was doing his own field by the ger. He didn't have kavanah to be kind of. Here, he is having kavanah to be kind of her. He's having kavanah to be kind of his yivama, right? He just doesn't realize that he's making a mistake, right? That it doesn't work. So this is not similar. The case here is similar to somebody who's digging in a field and he thinks it's ger number 1, it's field. And then really it ends up being ger number 2. So he's doing it to be kinda, but he's doing it from the wrong guy. The kani, in that case, he would be kinda, so he does have das. So therefore that mashal is not a good mashal. Elamar Abaya. So what does Abaya say to machlokes is? What are we talking about? Going to Amar Allah Hiskachli b'maimer yibum. He says to her, I want to be makadash you with the maimer that belongs special to Yevamas. So Rebbe Savar maimer ilave zikah karami. The maimer goes on top of the zikah. Ba'asoi chalitza afkasal zikah. Then we did chalitza. It took away the zikah. Meaning there's 2 things. He did maimer, and there's the standard zikah, which is a default. So when he did what he did here is you put the maimer on top of the zikah. Then he did chalitza, so chalitza takes care of the zikah. For Rabanan, and that's it. For Rabanan, sarvi hailu chudekai, Each one is its own thing, right? And since it's its own thing, meaning according to Rebbe, the mimer is on top of the zikah. Once you get rid of one, it gets rid of everything. But according to the Rabanan, no, each one is independent. If in the beginning he would have said, wouldn't that have helped? Meaning, before he gave her the chalitza, if he would have just said, I want you to be mekadosh b'maymer yivin, wouldn't it have helped? So now it would also help. That's Abaya's way of saying pshat. Rav Amar, if he would have said that he's being mimer mekadosh with a mimer as yevama, then everybody would hold that it helps. Meaning Rebbe and the Chachamim, going to Amar Allah, he said to her, be mekadosh me with. You should be mekud me. I'm going to be mekadosh you, or she's being mekadosh to her, whichever way you want to look at it, with the zikah of the yibum. Right? Meaning, if he would have done this before the chalitza, everybody would say that it's a good kiddushin, right? Right, but the problem is, what about after he does chalitza? So Rebbe Savar on Tamar Aleph now. We'll just go to the two dots. Rebbe Savar yesh zikah. There is zikah. Vasoi chalitza. Afkasei lezikah. So that since there's a zikah there, then the chalitza gets rid of the zikah, but that's it, right? So therefore it doesn't work. But Rabanan Savi ain't zikah meikara. Ain't zikah. There is no zikah here, right? Meikara from the beginning, meaning before the chalitza. Ilu amarla skachu the zikah yibum. If he would have said that he's been Kaddish with Zika's Yibum, Liloy Mahani would have not have helped. Ashtanar Mahani, so now it also would help. That's that teretz. Shabbos Yom no, but Chalitza Kshera, if he was a standard kosher Chalitza, meaning not with mimer or get or whatever it is, Idom or less actually the Zika's Yibum. If he would have told to be Mekadosh me with the Zika of the Yibum, meaning we're connected, so they're being Mekadosh me with that, everybody would say that doesn't help. Because it's the chalitza got rid of the zika. Here we're talking about the chalitza of psula. Marsa of chalitza psula peteres. One holds a chalitza of a psula makes her potter. Marsa of chalitza psula and a peteres, and the chalitza psula doesn't potter her. Meaning it's a chalitza psula because the chalitza is not a correct chalitza, because he was doing the chalitza before the marriage, right? So one holds chalitza psula. And one holds no, the chalitza is not going to make her possible. Ravashi Amar, I don't even know what number teretz it is. Ravashi Amar, the kuli Amar chalitza psula ain't it. If it's a puzzle chalitza, it doesn't pater her, and she would still be assur to marry other men. Here we're talking about where there's a tanai in the chalitza. One holds that there's a tanai when he does chalitza, meaning you're allowed to make tanaim in chalitza, like we learned in Amud Aleph that you're not supposed to make tanaim with a get. Here we said you could make a tanai. Umar Savar ain't tanai b'chalitza. One holds you can't make a tanai. And then Ravina just continues that. And he says, Ravina Amar, the kuli Amar yesh tanai b'chalitza. Everybody says there is a tanai b'chalitza. The tanai kafel kamiflugi. It's a tanai kafel. Mar Savar the ina tanai kafel. Umar Savar loy b'ina tanai kafel. One holds you need a tanai kafel, and one says you don't need a tanai kafel. So a tanai kafel is basically, if you make a condition with somebody, you have to double it back. Meaning, if you tell somebody, like you tell a kid and say, if you learn a Gemara, then I'm going to take you for ice cream, right? That's a tanai. Tanai kafel is, and if you don't learn nicely, I'm not taking you for ice cream. Meaning, you have to say it both ways. You have to be very clear. You have to say, if you learn well, I'm taking you for ice cream. If you don't learn well, I'm not taking you. That's a tanai kafel. So we're saying here, the machlokes between Rebbe and the Chachamim is if you need to make this tanai kafel or not in order for tanai to work on chalitza. Okay, so that's basically the 6 different ways of learning the machlokes between the Chachamim and Rebbe as to whether a mimer after chalitza works or not. The Chachamim hold that it will work in all scenarios, and Rebbe says no, it will not work in all scenarios. It only works when he's doing it for shem kiddushin and not for shem yibum. Okay, I hope that was understandable. I apologize for the delay and the background noise, and appreciate the patience. All right. Okay. Have a good night.
Have a safe flight.
Thank you. Okay.
Should I try to call you later?
Or? Could be. Maybe I'll take the call soon because they didn't even start boarding yet.
Oh, okay, fine. I don't think it'll take us more than like 10 minutes.
On this one. That being said, we love to obviously donate and meet with the Rav.
All right. Fine.
All right. So you'll call me if you can?
Yes, we know this. All right.